Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Manufacturing Success with Cloud ERP. Our goal today is to provide you with beneficial insights that will help you get the most out of your enterprise technology investment. Before we get started, let me review a few of our guidelines for the session. The phones will be muted for the duration of the presentation. We encourage everyone to submit questions at any time. We will get to those in the last 5 to 10 minutes of today's session. You can access the chat and Q&A features of Zoom by hovering your cursor over the bottom center of your webinar screen. This is Kristen Renda, Marketing Program Manager at Ultra and your moderator for today's webinar. Our agenda includes a brief introduction to Ultra Consultant, ERP challenges and cloud solutions, followed by a presentation from our guest from Big Bang ERP. Following that, we will share with you some additional resources before moving on to Q&A. To get us started, let's take a brief moment to let you know that Ultra Consultants is serving as your host today. As an independent ERP consultant, our team is part of our client's organization, working shoulder to shoulder with ERP project teams throughout the country. Now celebrating Ultra's 25th year in business, hundreds of manufacturing and distribution companies have benefited from Ultra's guidance to meet their operational, market, and customer demands. Manufacturers and distributors throughout North America, as well as companies with global operations, have teamed with Ultra as trusted advisors and industry best practice experts to guide them through their business process improvement and enterprise technology transformation journeys. Ultra's depth of experience is shown in a variety of vertical industries. Being a vendor-independent consulting firm means two main things. First, we are your partner for guiding you in your vendor education and selection, and that's where we help you get to know in depth the enterprise software vendors and implementation practices that are best for your company and your unique project needs. Second, we are also your partner for helping you discover how to make improvements throughout your organization using your chosen technologies. Our goal for every project is to help each organization not just select technology, but to truly transform through optimal business performance and process improvements that are available through today's digital technologies and platforms. As we look at ERP projects with our clients, each organization's project journey is unique. But there are three things common to every project: risk, cost, and complexity. So because of these three factors, we offer business process improvement services, technology selection, and implementation services. And we continue on with our clients through business transformation and value realization. A consistent thread throughout these services is risk, change, and project management. We start on day one, and our methodology is designed not to replace your project manager or the vendor's project manager, but to support your responsibilities during the project. We are here to partner with you and help you mitigate those risk factors, maintain your costs, and enable your team to keep the focus on achieving your project goals. We believe that modern technology drives business performance improvement. The decision to upgrade or implement a new enterprise technology system is likely one of the most complex and resource-intensive initiatives that a company will face. Manufacturers and distributors have told us that it's difficult to understand how to begin an enterprise technology project. The complexity and scope are overwhelming. To simplify our customers' experience, we've created a toolkit that leverages Ultra's unique perspective as trusted independent advisors serving manufacturing and distribution teams. Inside this toolkit, you'll find educational assets including videos, podcasts, white papers, and best practice expertise for an effective technology project. Within these assets, you'll find tips to organize the project scope and team, reduce the risk of failure, and drive change management, and curated resources illustrating what it takes to evaluate, select, and implement enterprise technology. I will send you an email following today's session that includes a link to this free download along with today's slides and a recording of this session. Today's webinar is focused on providing you with tools to help guide you in your cloud ERP journey. Before we kick off the presentation, we'd like to know where today's audience is at in their cloud ERP journey. So we'll send out the poll now, and Andrew will share the results with everyone before introducing our guest from Big Bag ERP. Our host today is Center of Excellence Director Andrew Bolivar. Andrew is a 15-year manufacturing and technology industry veteran with experience in manufacturing, management consulting, and the software industry. Andrew's professional experience includes leadership in the redesign and implementation of business process across multiple production facilities and working in concert with operations and IT groups. With Ultra, Andrew provides leadership and project management for our clients seeking selection and implementation assistance. Andrew has conducted multiple full-scope ERP selections and implementations for both process and discrete clients in food and bev, CPG, industrial equipment, distribution, and other industries. And now I will hand it over to Andrew to kick off today's discussion.
All right, thanks, Kristen, for that introduction, and thanks to everyone for joining us this afternoon. So we're going to take a few minutes here to just talk about, at a high level, why are ERP projects so challenging? And then we'll kind of focus on the unique spin that cloud ERP solution can put on some of those unique challenges. So, there's really a lot of reasons that ERP can be difficult, and we're not going to go through all of them, but we'll just hit on a few key ones, kind of breaking them into a technical and a business buckets. I think there's a few, right? But one of them is organizations tend to just underestimate the workload required to have a smooth and successful implementation project. When you think about data cleansing, training, technical development, right? These are common areas where we see issues arise. And ultimately deadlines aren't met and or the quality of the work being done can be jeopardized. So again, we'll take a look at the how cloud ERP kind of helps and can improve some of these specific challenges. So the first one here on the technical side is integrations, right? And in most cases, your new ERP isn't going to replace every business system out there, right? Inevitably, there's some legacy solutions that need to be integrated with your new ERP system. And the more complex that integration is, the more data moving back and forth, the more directions that data might be moving. Naturally, they're harder to get done and to get right. Another complexity on the technical side for any ERP project is data. And it tends to be a common cause of delay from our experience for implementation projects. Everyone knows going into the project that we're going to have to scrub data, but oftentimes the scope and scale of the effort to do that isn't really well understood. And this is a common area where we see some troublesome assumptions. Clients too often assuming that their implementation partner or their software vendor is going to take on more of the work in this area. And in some cases, some service providers can and they will do that. But of course, it needs to be clearly planned out in advance so that everyone understands their roles in that area. And in many cases, implementation service providers don't do a whole lot of support in this area, right? Naturally, the data is the business's asset, and the business owns it, and thereby has to take basically the load for cleaning that up. Now, the final area here is reporting and analytics. Most organizations have hundreds, if not thousands, of reports that they're using to manage the business day to day, right? And most ERP systems naturally provide a set of canned report options and probably some level of report writing capability. But larger, more complex reports often require business intelligence tools or additional report writing capability that can be both expensive to buy and use. When you tally up the cost of the software, potentially BI servers and hardware, developers that know how to use it, right? These are areas where costs can get racked up pretty quickly. And it tends to be an area that drives a lot of decision-making in ERP, right? Ultimately, we're looking for our ERP tools to provide us with insights to the business so we can better manage it. But again, it can be a challenge to get that exact insights and information out. So some of the ERP challenges more on the business side and less of the technical side. I think this is actually an area where some of the bigger problems lie. They tend to be a little harder to see and manage than some of the technical issues that we just talked about. First is just the challenge of making business decisions quickly. An ERP project touches all areas of your business, so naturally the implementation will require thousands of decisions over the course of the project. Some are small, but some can be quite large. The larger and the more complex the solution is, the more decisions that need to be made during the project. And simply put, there's just more switches and flags to set, more rules to define, and so on. So that can be a challenge. And then the next point is really an offshoot of the first. As the organization goes through the configuration design of the solution, there's two fundamental approaches. The business can either adopt the solution as it is, or they can adapt it to their business. And this is where you hear many organizations say that they're going to implement a solution out of the box, right? Or we're going to take the solution, vanilla flavored. And really what they're saying is they intend to adopt it and not adapt it, and accept the built-in best practices. The commitment to this approach is often challenged very quickly during implementation, and many businesses find themselves paying to adapt the solution to their processes rather than taking on the effort to adopt their own business process to the best practices that are found within the tool. Another challenge is in the area of testing, which is obviously critical to the success of the project, right? Testing ultimately tells us whether the system is performing as needed for the business. And unfortunately, it's a challenge to pull it off. Simply put, it's difficult to do it and to do it well. There's a tremendous amount of planning and coordination that has to go into successfully testing your solution. And getting multiple full end-to-end test cycles through can be quite challenging. And then the last one here is just in the training area. Again, training can be a challenge in terms of the planning and coordination, but a key area where we find clients struggling is with the documentation. Oftentimes they just don't have the bandwidth to develop adequate training documentation prior to the training. And the plan is always to go back and complete it after go live, but in many cases that doesn't happen. So cloud solutions, right? There's a whole host of benefits to cloud solutions, but I'm just going to talk briefly about how they put a unique spin on some of the challenges that we just talked to. So I'd mentioned the challenges around integrations and just the complexity of building all that. One of the benefits of cloud solutions that we see is that they often have some level of pre-built integrations, especially for some of the common players that you might expect to plug into your ERP tool. So cloud solutions have grown rapidly in recent years. They're adding partners to their platforms as they grow all the time, building out those ecosystems. And as they add those partners, they're often tackling the APIs and common integrations too. So that's something that they can bring to the table. They already know the source system, naturally, and in many cases, some of the legacy apps you might be looking at. So later, we're going to look at a couple solutions that are rapidly expanding their platforms, letting them expand not just their partner ecosystems, but those technical capabilities as well. Earlier, I mentioned the challenge of data migration and synthesis. The migration is the activity of taking the data out of your legacy applications, cleaning it, and then pumping it back into your new ERP tool. Many cloud solutions make this relatively simple process that can be iterative in nature. Most of them have standard templates for loading their data. You can start the cleansing and loading effort more quickly, right? And when I mention data synthesis, really what I'm referring to there is the creation of new data points in the system. If you consider all the data that's in people's heads, out on spreadsheets and email inboxes, that data can be moved into new fields, whether it be on transactions or master records throughout your new ERP. Cloud solutions tend to do a great job of making that relatively easy with the addition of new fields without doing any kind of coding or having database expertise. And then there's also some great benefits to cloud when you look at reporting. I just mentioned the ease at which you can add new data points and new fields, and those are readily available and accessible when it comes to reporting. Heavier reporting requirements can be run on the cloud as well. So, the days of running a critical report at midnight so you don't disrupt performance, that's over. The computing power of the cloud system just means you can pretty much run even heavy-duty reports on demand and as you need them. So how about on the business front? One of the challenges, like I mentioned, is just the sheer number of configuration options available. Some traditional ERPs just provide a dizzying array of options, which makes the solution flexible, right? But those options also require all the decisions we talked about. And that's one area that an implementation project can quickly kind of get off the rails and off the timelines. The very nature of cloud solutions means that they were developed with best practices in mind. It's not to say that they're less flexible. In many cases, I think cloud solutions can be adapted to unique processes relatively easily, but they tend to have more streamlined options in most areas. And a good solution provider will guide you through those good options and explore an alternative or two with you. But cloud solutions rarely ask, how do you want to do it at each process step? And I think this approach helps reduce confusion and all the extra decisions that don't really add value and ultimately saves time on the project. One of the difficulties with the testing is in the coordination. How do I get a team of 10 or 15 or 20 people to process this order from quote to cash and do it quickly so we can look at results? One of the benefits of the cloud solutions is you can really test it from anywhere. So rather than setting up the classic war room and having people come in and out in phases or batches, you can move transactions through in near real time as team members can keep it moving really from anywhere, simply with a URL to access the tool. Most ERP solutions have some basic documentation that they'll provide you, but as you go through implementation and the solution changes and is adapted more for your business, you naturally need to go back and update that. And I mentioned how in many cases that's left to the end of the project, and the result is a set of user documentation that reflects the solution as it was at the start, but not where it is at the time of go live or training. And of course, this is generally true for cloud solutions too, right? They've got documentation the same, except the solution is always improving, and thereby the providers tend to be updating that documentation continuously. And from my perspective, I think this is an underappreciated feature of cloud solutions, is that they often have a vast array of training tools that are current, right? User guides, online user communities, all of that stuff goes a long way in helping train your end users and onboard new hires. So that's just some of the challenges that an implementation faces and how we see cloud solutions differentiated from classical ERP tools. Of course, there's a host of other benefits to cloud solutions, right? The power of the cloud and computing, scalability, more predictable cost structures. But again, we're just focusing here on some of the challenges unique to implementation. So we'll take a look now at the poll results. The first question here, before we move over to our partner Big Bang, is, does your organization currently utilize a cloud ERP? 70% said they do not. How would you rate your organization's current enterprise technology? We had a single response as excellent, 70% as average, and about 20% as poor. And then finally, does your organization plan to upgrade or implement new ERP technology in 2019? With 60% of the respondents saying yes, and the remainder not sure. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris. Chris is from Big Bang ERP. Big Bang is a full scope implementation service provider focusing on 2 different cloud ERP solutions. Big Bang's worked alongside Ultra, delivering successful cloud implementations for several of our clients. And without further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Chris. So Chris, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here and share this with you. So I'm going to go ahead and start this on my side. All right. So who is Big Bang ERP? So we are a strategic service company specializing in cloud solution, and we act as an extension of your business to ensure your success. So here's, I would say, like 6 key elements that help define us. So first of all, as I mentioned, we are a strategic service company. We're a one-stop shop for all of your cloud business needs. Whatever the product is, we're system agnostics. We're not married to a single product, and I think that's definitely one of our strong points. Also, our consultants, they have experience in a lot of different industries as well, and they are both technical and also have business expertise as well. Thirdly, we have, like I said, we're a natural extension of your organization. We're system agnostic, and we really want to, we really want to help you select the best product for your needs. As Andrew mentioned, we're talking about the cloud, right? So we're talking cutting edge solution. You want to have visibility, real-time visibility on your business, and you want to have access to that information from anywhere in the world. Obviously, we value responsiveness, and we want to create tangible values for your company. So this is really one of our priorities. And finally, we have a global presence. We have we have 2 offices around the world, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And that helps us ensure that we can help you in your global expansion if you want to do that. So, as I said, we help your business move to the cloud, and we have an extensive catalog of customers, projects, multiple types of projects as well, implementation, optimization, support. So throughout the years, we've gathered this extensive catalog. So as I mentioned, we have 2 offices in the world, one in Montreal, one in Mauritius, and that helped us, cover, I would say, most of the time zones around the world. And we have more than 80 employees now, and we have a global reach. Okay, so why the cloud? So these days, companies, they have their business models, they evolve. And when you are stuck with systems that are legacy, that are old, it's really hard to keep up with, trying to update and change this business model that you have. Also, you would select cloud because it's flexible, it's scalable, and your return on investments regarding your IT costs and all of that will be greatly improved on that front. Also, you have these days, different customers, they have multiple clients around the world, so they need to have a global presence just for their system, so their customers can access their system from anywhere around the world. And also, you don't want to maintain that this IT infrastructure. So more physical space for other more useful stuff, I would say. And also the maintaining the cost of these IT infrastructures and the upgrade that would come with them. You don't have to take care of that, right? Cloud is there for you, and it's a very cost-effective way to do business. Other nice, I would say, pros about cloud computing in general is that you have any customers in the world, they want to reduce their capital and operational expenditures. And what relates to that is that also you have a faster deployment when you want to have new features being put on. Also, a lot of companies these days, they're very concerned about environmental issues. So it allows you to also lower your carbon footprint. So all in all, a lot of different little things that I think is a strong advocate of as to why cloud is the way to go. Little study here. I think it's quite telling. It's just a result of what is the ROI on different aspects of what cloud computing can bring to your business. So it either reduces costs or just improve performances altogether. So I'm not going to go over all the numbers, but I think it's very telling as to what the ROI actually is. Here's a little pyramid that we use, and I think it's very telling as to, right now, there are so many different types of systems. It's actually quite confusing when you're just, starting to look at it. And I think it describes well the fact that your ERP system, everything that is related to finance is really the backbone of your ecosystem system-wise, right? So there are multiple layers, and all of these systems, they need to communicate together as well. And for the purpose of today's presentation, we're gonna talk mostly about two of these different type of systems, namely ERPs and MRPs. BBE has Big Bang ERP has an extensive catalog of products that they offer assistance on, and also extenders on these systems. And again, for the purpose of today's meeting, we're going to talk mostly about two different products, namely NetSuite and ROOTSTOCK. All right, so now moving on to the products themselves, we're gonna start with NetSuite. So Big Bang is a 5-star partner with NetSuite, and we have the most amount of certifications per capita in the world. So I think it's very telling as to our expertise with this system. Why would you choose NetSuite? Well, NetSuite is designed for today's businesses and are built for many industries, and hopefully yours. Also, as Andrew mentioned, you want to be on a platform that is flexible, right? And NetSuite is just that. Also, you want to have a single source of truth, at least as much as possible for your data, because it allows you to actually improve your BI and your real-time view. Some nice metrics here, I think, that are quite telling regarding the fact that, again, you're going to reduce your costs, you're going to improve your performances, you're going to improve your gross margin. So it's very, I think it's important to show that it really has a tangible impact on your business. Not unlike other, systems and, cloud solutions, NetSuite has different, I would say tiers, different editions depending on your needs and also the size of your company. So let's take a look here at the two different editions that are, related to marketing itself. So we have the emerging edition with, I would say, more basic needs manufacturing-wise. We're talking about, small businesses that are up to 30 users that have a revenue ranging from 5 to 25 million. And then if you need a little bit more muscle on the manufacturing side, you have a lot, you have a lot more users, you need more precise stuff, and also your revenues are, a little bit higher than the market edition is probably the way to go for you. Important to note here that we're mostly talking about discrete type of manufacturing. So I think it's important to mention. Also, as to what features are contained, like the differences for manufacturing, basically, I would say the most important one is the fact that the mid-market edition contains width and routing. Work in process is very, I would say, very used in the manufacturing world. So if you do need that feature, then mid-market edition is for you. Moving on to the different modules. So these modules are, depending on which tier you have, you're going to have access to these modules. So basically, one I would say set of modules build on the previous one. So you always have a little bit more features depending on what level of manufacturing you do need. Today, we're going to focus mostly on the width and routing. Also, in a later demo shown today, we're really gonna go into these features here. Also important to understand that if your manufacturing needs are very, very complex, and for example you need also like barcoding, scanning, you need to integrate with other machines, then advanced manufacturing is definitely the way to go for you. All right, so let's now talk about the other product that we're going to show today, which is ROOTSTOCK. So ROOTSTOCK is a bit younger company. They don't have a partner program. They don't have certifications just yet. But so I think it's important to actually try to explain who are they as a company. So they are a manufacturing, distribution, and supply chain experts for ERP. They do develop their own software, they sell it, and they implement it as well for the industries that we just mentioned. Also, they're really designed to replace your legacy ERP or other solutions that you're using right now to ensure that you have you're really optimizing all of your processes. ROOTSTOCK, what is nice about it is that it built on the Salesforce platform. So for those of you that don't know what Salesforce is a CRM, probably I would say the best one on the market, definitely the most popular one at least. And it has, it has this sets of modules, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud. It has AI, machine learning, like Einstein. So a lot of cool features that really ROOTSTOCK really leverages to its best capabilities. And basically, the typical use cases that ROOTSTOCK would cover in manufacturing would be engineer to order, configure to order, make to order, make to stock. So very, I would say, common use cases in the industry. Standard process for Salesforce and ROOTSTOCK's instance would be that you would have, for example, a marketing campaign in Salesforce, and then it would bring in leads. Certain of these leads would be converted to accounts, and after that, with these accounts, you would have different opportunities, and these opportunities would translate into actual sales order, and then you would be able to actually start your production and creating and to fulfill these orders, and that's where ROOTSTOCK really kicks in. Also, what's nice about the Salesforce platform is that you can have other add-on software like Avalara, for example, for taxes calculation, ZenCraft for order fulfillment. So it really, you can really complement your whole ecosystem in Salesforce and ROOTSTOCK. Finally, some other nice features about ROOTSTOCK. I'm not going to name all of them, but it's a very complete manufacturing system. So if you have users, for example, that only that are only tracking time on the shop floor, and you want to restrict their accesses, you can have you can do that in ROOTSTOCK. It's very easy to actually track labor and machine time, and there is backflushing also is another good example. So there's a lot of features that are really I would say makes it a very complete catalog as to manufacturing features in general. And I would say the best use case scenario for it would be that people are already on this Salesforce platform and want to actually extend the capabilities that they have and have manufacturing features on their instance. But again, it's not I would say unusual to see people that don't have Salesforce and just implement both at the same time. Also, target market for ROOTSTOCK, we're talking mid-market to enterprise size company. Again, discrete processes as to manufacturing, and number of users, I would say flexible, and the revenue we're aiming at between 25 and 50 million. All right, so we're going to go ahead and switch over to the product demonstration. So just give me a second here. All right, so the first product we're going to show is NetSuite. So let's put ourselves in the context here. Let's pretend we're a woodworking company, and one of our customers they ordered a wood table, for example. So just gonna walk you through I would say a typical use case scenario, and you'll be able to see how it goes. This is, by the way, this is the standard, I would say, homepage for NetSuite. It's very customizable. You can have different dashboards depending on what you need. So like Andrew was mentioning, the reporting capabilities of cloud solutions in general I think is really one of the strong points, but especially in NetSuite, it's really a key element. So let's go ahead and start our work order. So we're going to go in transactions and then manufacturing, and we're going to go here at enter work orders. All right. So again, as I mentioned, we want our customer wants a table. So I'm going to go ahead and select my table, which is an assembly item, meaning that they have basically just give me a second here. My table was so yeah, meaning that it has multiple components. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to refresh here. Okay. Just got logged out, so we'll just going to go right back in. Sorry for the delay. All right, so let's start that over. All right, so again, as I mentioned, we're going into we're creating a work order. And we're going to go ahead and select our subsidiary first. What is nice, a cool feature about NetSuite is that you can have multiple subsidiaries depending on the edition you pick. So I would say very common use case scenarios where depending on your subsidiary, maybe you have different items. So that, helps refine the list. So let's go ahead and select our wood table here. Just give me a second. All right, here it is. Great. All right, so by selecting that table, I have two components that were automatically added because they're part of the recipe of that table, basically. And as we can see, we have what composed this table is four wood legs and one wood plank. So that's great. We also have the notion of the location. So let's say that we're building this table in Montreal. And we need one table. We want to make sure that this work order is released right away when it's created, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to go ahead and save this work order. While it's loading, one nice thing to mention is that you can enter here a promise date. So in that case, my customer wants it by January 21st, and we want to start production right away. So hence why it's January 17th. So great. So my work order was created. Now, first step that I want to do is actually reserving the different components that are needed for that table, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that issue component button here. Good. So as we can see, the recipe of my table is composed of two different operations, and we're gonna speak more about that a little bit later. But right now, I'm reserving this inventory for this work order specifically. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Great. So this has been now reserved for this work order specifically. And as we can see, so I can see right now what is available inventory on hand for these different components. So it really helps me see, have a visibility of, what inventory I have right now in my system. So the components were reserved. So basically somebody after that would just, go pick these up in the inventory, and we would be able to start performing and work on that table. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on enter completion here. All right. So now, as I mentioned previously, we have two different operations. So first operation would be cutting the wood plank, and then the second operation would be to actually, bolt the different legs in the table. So I'm going to go ahead and start by saying that we're going to complete one quantity while doing that. Performing these operations, and I'm going to also select what is the ending, what is the starting operation, and what's the ending one. And very nice feature here is that there is two different concepts here as to time that I'm tracking on that operation, on these operations. Basically machine and labor time. So these are default values that I haven't. But if, for example, it would take more time to actually for the worker, for example, to prepare himself, you could override that value and make it bigger. And same thing for prepare. If there's a machine involved, you could also change that value. So there is, there are both concepts of machine and labor, and also setup time and just straight up runtime. So it really gives us, a lot of flexibility as to, what kind of work we're actually performing. So I'm good with the numbers I have here, and I'm going to go ahead and save. Great. So my work order has now been completed. So I'm just gonna go ahead and come back on my work order, and as I can see, there was one table built for that work order, and that's what I wanted to do. So I'm good with that work order. It's now finished. I'm gonna go ahead and click on close. Great. So I'm fine with that information here. I'm gonna save. Good. So my work order, if I come back to it, is now, the status is now closed. So that's pretty much it for the NetSuite portion of our demo. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to ROOTSTOCK now. So again, very, very simple, very simple processes since we don't have a lot of time, but obviously, these systems are capable of way more. So we're going to do the same thing, but in ROOTSTOCK. So this is your typical ROOTSTOCK, I would say, menu. So we're going to go ahead, again, same scenario. We're going to go ahead and, enter a work order for a wood table. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one by clicking on new here. And I'm going to just enter a little name here for my work order. Great. So again, I want to build a table. So I'm going to click on this table here. I want one table. And let's say that my customer is he really needs that table and wants it today. So I'm fine with that. I'm going to go ahead and save. Great. Now, what's the first thing that I'm going to do is that the process is a little bit different in ROOTSTOCK, but it's all translates to the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start by extracting the operation. So basically, it's the same thing as just wanting to know exactly what are the different steps for that table to be built. So I'm going to go ahead and start by extracting my operation. Great. So in that case specifically, let's pretend that our table just needs a single step to be created. So if I open my related list here and I open my operation tab, I can see that this operation was has been extracted and informs me of what I need to do to actually create that table. So I'm fine with that. I'm going to go ahead and extract the components now. And you can do both at the same time. It's just really to so you people understand exactly the different steps involved here. So I'm extracting my components. So if I again open my related list and now I look at the components tab, I can see that this table is composed of 2 different components. So same thing as in the NetSuite demo where I have 4 wood legs and 1 plank. So I'm fine with that. And now what I want to do is that I want to reserve that inventory as well. So I'm going to go here, open that little side menu here, and I'm going to click on Issue Components. Great. So now here what I want to do is that I just want to display the components for that specific order here. And when I show it, I see both components and the location, the quantity that I have available. So it helps me see if I do have some available, and if that's the case, that's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and reserve that inventory. I'm going to click here on Issue Select and Components. Great. So that was a success. So now I'm back on my work order, and I can see that there is a pick list was generated for the different components. So again, somebody was going to inventory to pick these up. So right now, what we want to do is we want to start working on that table to get it done, because we have a due date of today, right? So I'm going to go ahead again and open the side menus and click on Book Time and Quantity. So here, I basically, like I said, I only have 1 operation, and again, I have the same concept as in NetSuite where I can book either labor time or machine time, and also I can have the distinction of entering a setup time too if I want to, and same thing for the machine itself. So I'm just gonna book labor time here just straight up. And I'm going to submit my booking. So that would be an employee tracking, just tracking time that he performed on that table to assemble it. Great. So that was submitted. Now if I go back to my work order and I refresh, I'm just going to come back on my work order, not my issuing. Here it is. And I look at the time that was booked on my work order. So I had, I had this visibility in ROOTSTOCK. So it's great to see, even while the work is being performed, like if you want to watch, your budget and all of that really, gives you visibility to do that. So let's say that the table was completed. So I'm gonna go ahead and receive that item into my inventory as a finished good. So I'm gonna go here in work order receipt. Great. So now I can open the list of my work order, and that's the table that I just created. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one, and I'm fine with that information here. I do have 1 quantity that I'm accepting, as a finished good in my inventory. So I'm going to go ahead and perform the work order receipt. Great. So now I've received that. I'm going to go back to my work order, and now if I refresh my page, I can now see that the status changed, and saying that all of the items present on my work orders were received. So it means that our table is now completed, and we can now ship it to the customer. So I'm just going to go ahead and close the work order. Great. So the work order was closed, and now the status of my work order is closed. So that's all I wanted to show. Regarding the demos themselves. So very simple processes, but obviously, there's a lot of intricacies, there's a lot of things that can be customized. And yeah, that is definitely, a strong point of all of these systems. So just to wrap it up quickly, So let's summarize why Big Bang. So we, okay. All right, so the service that we provided, just as a reminder, we know it's a scary world. You don't have to do this alone. So Big Bang is really there to offer, several services, and it ranges from implementation to support to training. So we really have your success at heart. We are your trusted advisors, and we really want to make sure that the projects that you have at heart will be successful. We use a methodology that is very simple, and we're there to help you along at every step, and we're fully aware of all the tasks and the different processes that needs to be done for this to be a success. Throughout the years, we seem to be receiving more and more recognition from various experts in the field, and I think it really speaks as to the successes, the different successes that we have with our customers. Lastly, here's 2 testimonials from our dear customers, using different products, both products that were shown today. And I think, it's important to share that with all of you to see that, there is really tangible proofs that we can really bring your company to the next level. So that's it from me. So I'm gonna pass the mic back to Ultra Consultant.
Thank you, Chris, and we will be moving on to Q&A in just a moment. First, I wanted to share some additional resources with our audience today. We do have several webinars coming up that we'd like you to register for, and you can register for those at ultraconsultants.com/ERP-education. Next week, on January 24th, we have How Modern ERP Better Manages Complex Manufacturing. And then starting off our webinar series for February, we'll be Putting Data to Work, Art or Science. And after that, The Power of Fully Integrated ERP. So we look forward to seeing you at those events. If you do have any questions, please submit them through Q&A. And with that, I will hand it over to Andrew.
All right. Thanks for the demos and the explanation, Chris, and thanks, Kristen. So we've got just a couple questions in here that we'll run through before we wrap up today. The first one is, can you leverage NetSuite with Salesforce.com? So Chris, I think I'll kick that one over to you.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So yes, so the answer is yes. Obviously, it's really on a need-per-need basis, and that's why we meet the customers on one-on-one to exactly know how they want to leverage NetSuite with Salesforce. So there are different different connection points, and yeah, it's definitely possible. But again, it's a real on a case-by-case basis.
Great, thank you. All right, so the next question, maybe we can kind of split this one. When is the right time to upgrade your ERP? I guess from my perspective, I think the right time is when the business can focus on it. Naturally, there's some things that would push us to do it sooner, right? If your ERP is going out of support or something like that, that you might need to move a little faster than normal. But from my perspective, it's a huge project for the business, and I think the right time is when the business can give it the attention and the resources it deserves. But Chris, I know you and Big Bang have a ton of experience too. Maybe you'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So, obviously I'm agreeing with everything that you just said, but just to be a little bit more specific, when your company, meets, they have pain points and they're losing visibility on, the different metrics that they have, and they just don't have a clear picture of where they're standing. I think that's really, the time where you're the wake-up call saying okay, I think, I need to upgrade my ERP system. So, again, it's really trying to benchmark what you want, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this question.
Hey, great insight there, Chris. Appreciate that. All right, the third question here. What do you suggest you look for when you select a implementation partner? I think I mentioned earlier that Big Bang has worked successfully alongside Ultra and delivering great projects, and I think there's a lot to look for. A few of them I think would be naturally their experience and expertise, obviously not just with the software, but in dealing with organizations that are comparable to you in terms of size and obviously industry. Each industry has its own unique set of challenges and nuances, and I think an implementation partner that understands those is better suited than maybe some others. And again, Chris, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have that. Yeah, basically, you want to look for somebody that will grow with you, right? And somebody that already have experience and that will be there with you in the future when your company is bigger. And somebody that are aware of all the different changes that can occur, in different ERP systems. Of course, we can't predict everything, but we have a pretty good grasp of the different impacts that can occur in the future. So yeah, I think that's one of the key elements to looking at a software partner.
Great. Okay, and we've got just one last question here before we wrap up. Can you talk a little bit to the benefits of avoiding physical servers? And Chris, I'll leave that one with you.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So we like to use a good analogy here where, for example, when you want to travel and you want to go somewhere, why don't you just, set up a tent and on the side of the road and sleep there, right? It would be very, very less, costly. But then again, when you think about it, who's going to take care of your security? Who's going to take care of, cleaning your room? All of that comes into mind where when you're choosing an ERP solution, a cloud solution, there are experts that are taking care of all of that. So obviously it costs more, but just on the short term. But on the long term, when you're looking at it, you're actually saving money doing that, right? So it's really having a peace of mind. That's why you avoid physical servers.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris, and thanks, Kristen. That's all we've got for questions. So, Kristen, if you'd like to go ahead, close this out.
Thanks, Andrew. And that will conclude today's webinar from all of us here at Ultra. Thank you to all of our attendees for participating, and thank you to today's presenters, Andrew and Chris, for sharing their expertise with us. We wish everyone a great rest of your day, and we will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.